Welcome back, folks. In today's video, we're diving into uncharted territory as we explore the latest gaming laptop from Acer, the Acer Nitro 16. Join us as we unbox, review, and put the Acer Nitro 16 gaming laptop through its paces. Stay tuned, because you won't want to miss this deep dive into gaming excellence. This is not sponsored. I will do my best to give you an unbiased review and hands-on experience with this gaming machine. What I have here is the Intel variant of the 2023 Acer Nitro 16 with an Intel Core i7-13700H processor with an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3050, 16GB of DDR5 4800 MHz memory, 1TB NVMe SSD, and features a 16-inch IPS display with up to 165Hz refresh rate, 3 milliseconds response time, and an interesting 16:10 aspect ratio. I'll try to provide you with as many details as I can, so let's get into it. As with any gaming laptop, the packaging features an outer brown box, then the primary packaging with the Nitro branding. Inside the box, we have the Acer Nitro 16 itself, nicely protected by a couple of foam protection and a soft cloth. But before that, we have this accessory box that houses the Type-B power cable, a Type-E power cable, and the 230W power brick. Now, at first look and touch, the Acer Nitro 16 features a robust plastic chassis with a weight of around 2.5 kilograms. The lid has some flex but is not too concerning. Same with the center part of the keyboard, but other than that, pretty solid construction all throughout. Here up top, we have a nice Acer Nitro logo with a sort of holographic effect to it. We also have some neon accents here that resemble the logo and an Acer Nitro branding right here. The surface of the lid has a nice smooth texture. I also appreciate the curved corners around. We can also see a bit of the hinge and exhaust design here at the rear end. Flipping it on the left side, we have one of the 4 exhaust ventilation, the killer E2600 gigabit Ethernet port, a USB-A 3.2 port, a micro SD card reader, and a 3.5mm headphone jack. On the other side, we have a Kensington lock slot, another exhaust ventilation, 2 USB-A 3.2 ports, and a couple of LED indicators. We also have a substantial amount of input and output ports here at the back, including the power port, an HDMI 2.1 port, and 2 USB-C ports, one of which supports Thunderbolt 4. We also have the other 2 exhaust ventilation here on both sides with a supercar-like design language. Overall, in terms of input and output ports, we pretty much have everything we need here, although I feel like a full SD card slot should have been better instead of a micro SD card given the amount of space available on this laptop. Looking in front, it's fairly clean. It doesn't have a dedicated lip or cutout for lifting the lid up, but it has a subtle chamfered edge to help with that. The good thing here is that you can open the lid using just one hand. The hinges are strong enough to maintain the position, but since the lid is quite lightweight, sometimes it wobbles a bit before staying in place. Before we take a look at the peripherals, let's flip this over and check out the bottom. The bottom case is made out of plastic, but feels durable enough. Here we have 4 rubber feet, 2 fans with 2 intake ventilation, a substantial amount of passive ventilations, and 2 speakers, one on each side. The cooling system is pretty standard with a dual fan cooling system and a fair amount of intake and exhaust ventilation. But what's new in this 2023 version is the addition of liquid metal thermal grease on the CPU. It also looks like we have more ventilations here below the display. Now, opening the lid reveals the peripherals and the larger than usual display. Speaking of the display, what we have here is a 16-inch IPS display with a 1920 by 1200 resolution for a larger than usual 16:10 aspect ratio. It also has up to 165Hz refresh rate and 3 milliseconds response time. With a 16:10 aspect ratio, we have more vertical real estate for web browsing and for working on documents and things around that nature. However, some videos that still use the popular 16:9 widescreen aspect ratio will have some black borders, as you can see here. In terms of the display quality, thanks to the IPS panel, the viewing angles are pretty good even at an extreme angle like this. The colors are also fairly vibrant with good contrast levels, sharpness, and details. Brightness levels are also fairly substantial, especially for indoor use. However, since it's not an OLED panel,
The blacks are not as deep as you can see here. As for color accuracy, it covers 100% of the sRGB color space, 78% NTSC, 82% Adobe RGB, and 85% P3 color gamut. This means it should be good enough for social media and web applications. Not so much for print and other professional use. Overall, the image quality is still pretty good, and I don't think anyone will get disappointed with this. With proper expectations, of course. Aside from that, the bezels all around are also relatively thin except for the bottom bezel. Speaking of the bottom bezel, we have an Acer Nitro logo right at the center. Up top, we have the webcam and the microphone array. In terms of audio, we have dual 2W speakers with DTS, X Ultra, one on each bottom corner. They sound pretty good for bottom-firing speakers, but are a bit lacking in terms of bass. It does provide rich and clear sounds though, and can get loud and fill a small room. Here's a quick sound test for you guys. Now going down to the input peripherals, we have a full-sized keyboard with a dedicated numpad, arrow keys, and an almost standard layout. We also have a dedicated power button here, a dedicated NitroSense button, some multimedia buttons, and shortcuts under the function row keys. The ASD and arrow keys even have some accent lining around them for that gaming vibe. This keyboard has RGB lighting, but instead of per key lighting, it only has 4 zones which you can customize via the NitroSense app. Right here, we have a dedicated button for changing between performance modes. When plugged in, we have Eco, Balanced, Performance, and Turbo, but on battery, we only have Eco and Balanced. You can also see these modes in NitroSense app. The trackpad size is pretty decent, not too big, not too small, and features a quite smooth surface. It is accurate and offers robust tactile feedback. It also supports up to 4 finger gestures. The surface around the trackpad features a nice, to-the-touch subtle rough matte finish. By the way, I noticed that a lot of you guys, my viewers, are not yet subscribed. So if you find my videos helpful or at least informative, a new subscriber will mean a lot to me. So click that red button and hit that bell notification as well so you won't miss out. Thank you. Alright, before I share with you some of the benchmarks that I did, let me just pop the complete specifications on the screen so that you can check it out. I have limited time with this gaming laptop, but I'll share everything I was able to test. Let's start with a couple of FPS esports titles, which I think is the main target of this gaming laptop, having a 1200p resolution and high refresh rate of up to 165 Hz. When plugged in, performance and turbo modes are available, which allows the CPU frequency to go as high as 4.9 GHz, while maintaining an average of around 3.9 GHz, offering a pretty decent and stable average frame rate of around 324 FPS in Valorant and 336 FPS in CSGO, which is more than enough frame rates for these two titles, and more than the display's maximum refresh rate is capable of, so we're good here. However, on battery, only Eco and Balanced modes are available, and the CPU frequency is only limited to an average of around 1.4 GHz, resulting in frequent frame drops in game. As you can see here, we're only getting an average FPS of just around 91 FPS on battery on Valorant, with a significant drop when it comes to the 1% lows at only around 34 FPS. So gaming on battery only should not be an option here, at least for competitive FPS games. Now, when it comes to higher demanding games like Cyberpunk 2077, after testing several settings, the best image quality to performance setting that I can recommend here is RTX Off and Ultra with either DLSS quality or Balanced for around 60 plus FPS. And in God of War, which is another demanding but equally stunning in terms of graphics, my recommended settings here are high with DLSS quality for over 60 plus FPS as well. And lastly, in Hogwarts Legacy, I actually prefer this game having ray tracing on, at least on high, with either DLSS quality or Balanced for a good balance between image quality and performance. As you can see, using ray tracing noticeably improves the quality of light and shadows, which this game offers a ton around its stunning environments. As for the thermals, it's actually pretty good.
In turbo mode with boosted CPU frequency but with maximum fan speed, we're getting around 64 degrees on average, maxing out at only around 72 degrees, which is pretty good in my opinion. On battery, with throttle performance, the CPU's temperature are expectedly lower, averaging only around 48 degrees and maxing out at 52. Same scenario when it comes to the GPU, maxing out at 66.3 degrees and averaging only around 59.8 degrees when plugged in, and significantly cooler when running only in battery. Speaking of battery, when gaming, it lasted around 1.4 hours and was able to charge with the display on for around the same duration. Overall, the performance is pretty good, especially when maxing out using the turbo mode. However, I would have to say that you'll have to either get used to the loud fan noise or just use headphones. Here's a quick sound test. Now, to conclude, what I like about this gaming laptop is the improved design, especially on its but with a supercar-like design language. I also appreciate the slightly larger display, better input and output ports, the improved thermal cooling using liquid metal thermal grease, and its overall performance. However, I don't think the changes or improvements from its 2022 variant are significant enough in terms of overall features, not to mention the previous Gen 30 series graphics, at least for the variant that I have here. Other variants, I believe, will come with the latest 40 series graphics. But other than that, it is still a pretty decent gaming laptop that should provide a decent amount of performance for general media consumption, productivity, and competitive esports gaming. Alright folks, wrapping up my thoughts on the Acer Nitro 16. I hope you found this review helpful, especially if you're considering investing in this premium gaming laptop. This particular variant comes with a price tag of around $1,359 on Amazon, which might seem steep, but bear with me. Despite the price, this laptop offers a comprehensive package that can cater to various needs and scenarios. It's a powerhouse that can potentially replace your desktop setup, offering versatility, portability, and impressive performance. From handling demanding tasks to providing a decent battery life and minimal noise levels, it ticks many boxes without compromising much. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, the price. It's not for everyone, no doubt. However, for the right audience with specific requirements and a flexible budget, the Acer Nitro 16 is worth considering. It brings a lot to the table, and if it aligns with your needs, it could be a game changer.